Hi everybody in YouTube land, it's the D's channel here, and I am going to be talking and showing you how to lay a piece of slate in a windowsill. Really, it's pure slate, as in actual slate, so raw material. It's got its own little idiosyncrasies, which this video might help you out with. It does flake when you cut it across the grain, so you have to be careful of that. When you're cutting with the grain, it's fine. It doesn't part at all. Let's get into the video without further ado, and I shall talk to you later. Thanks. Okay, and jumping right into it, I'm using a square which obviously has markings on both edges. As I square this against the piece of slate that's in position, I can then take all the measurements from the side of the slate minus a spacer and transfer those down onto the piece of the slate that I need to cut. And as you see, I am measuring both ways, from the edge down to inwards, and then from the side to the spacer. And the reason I do this is to get the curve of the cut line. As you're transferring these marks down, I suppose this is the most complex part of doing this. Afterwards, you can pretty much just join the dots and you will find that the curve you've set on the piece of slate or stone or tile, when you cut that, your piece should then fit in correctly. As you continue on, from a slightly different angle, I'm marking all this with a pencil, which is important because a pencil on a substance like slate will rub off if you make a mistake, whereas a marker is a more permanent mark, and therefore you would have a great difficulty in getting it off. Carbon doesn't seem to mark natural stone. Now I'm using the fine cut disc, which I always use for porcelainous or ceramic cutting, on an angle grinder, and I'm cutting slow with the grain. This cut here is an easy cut to do. The one that and all you're doing is following the line that you have drawn, but don't dig the disc into the side of the good edge as such. Just allow it to run it through. As you see at the end of this cut, I'm now going to turn the grinder round because that end cut is actually a straight cut from the other edge, which is a better cut to do from that side. And there we go. The slate splits away. Bit of dust, almost like carbon or graphite from a pencil, really. And that's the piece of slate cut and put into position in the first window. Now in the second window we had a little more, shall we say, an intricate job of doing it, but hey, the first window has come out okay. As you can see, I've got my little spacer there. Second window, I've put the two central pieces of slate and then I'm doing the cuts to the side. And the reason why I've done it this way is because I honestly believe that that was the best way it would look, with the light coming in on the grain of the slate into the room. So myself and the customer agreed with that, and we've gone with these cuts here, which again, all I'm doing is setting up my square to the square slate, and then running my marks out on the side of that for both pieces. Measure twice and cut once, as they say. That's one of my, I suppose, favourite little things that I learned a long time ago. It's always better to double think your measurement than think, oh yeah, that'll do, and then find that it's wrong when you cut it, especially with something like slate, because it's really expensive in this country. Now, as you can see, I'm using different types of squares to mark the lines out. Again, I'm doing it all with a carbon pencil, like a normal soft lead pencil, so that it puts a mark on the material, but it doesn't actually mark it permanently. The process is basically exactly the same as the first time round. You take your measurements from the wall to the fixed piece of slate, from the window ledge back down the length of the slate, and then you do your marks all down through. After that's completed, it's just a matter of joining those dots, and then you should pretty much have a piece of slate that will fit into the missing part. Now, these windows were, I suppose, slightly more awkward, but I've measured out and done all my marking for both sides now, and I'm going to bring that down and cut it again. So that's a bit of a different view of the area of slate that I need. And I've already cut the trim. There's another really good video on trim cutting that I did previously. I'll put that in the description. I'll also put a link to it at the end of the video. I have used a porcelain adhesive to bed these slate in. I didn't do that in this video because I felt, well, we'll move on to the grouting. Otherwise it'll just be way too long. I'm using a black anthracite grout. Well, it's not absolute black, it's kind of a very, very dark grey, verging on black. It does pretty much come out the same colour as the slate at the end, so I was really pleased about that. I'm just using a grout float and a normal square faced bucket trowel, small one, and it's really quite handy for filling in those grout lines, getting the grout into place and then pushing it down. I'm using a nice piece of force on this to push the grout in. I've obviously sped everything up because otherwise the video would be like, I don't know, 3 hours long or something. But, you know, take your time, get it in nicely. The grout has a workability of about 90 minutes. That's about an hour and a half. So really on a small piece of 2 windowsills like this, you got lots of time. It is actually drying out quite fast because of the day that was in it. But hey, you know, it's natural. It's a natural material. Beautiful piece of stone. For me, it's important not to rush the finishing touches on something like this, because that's where you'll make your biggest mistakes. If you research something, go through it, understand it, and then put your hand to it, you'll probably find that it'll come out a lot better than just trying to wing it. So that's why I'm making these how-to videos, so that other people can pick up my skills, the ones that I've learned. You know, I give them out for free. All I ask is maybe click on a like, send a comment, hit that subscribe button. Help me build a channel that's going to be here for a number of years. That would be excellent. Anyway, moving on. We have, or rather I have, finished grouting now. And I'm going to do first wash down. First wash down with black grout is just... it's a full learning curve. I mean, the stuff gets everywhere. The secret is to just keep washing out that sponge. So wash down one line. Not a wet sponge, just a sponge that has been thoroughly squeezed out by hand. And you've got a nice kind of bit of dampness there. And then you can just run down the grout line. If you have too much water, what will happen is you'll basically soften up the grout too much, and then the grout will pull out of the line that you've grouted, so you'll have to pretty much go and put more grout back in. So there's kind of a trick to it, which is keep washing out your sponge, squeeze it out well, and then go back to your grout line. I mean, I probably give maybe 6 wipes with a sponge and then squeeze it out again. But I would change my water quite regularly as well, simply because with black grout, your water dirties up real fast. So you want to give it one full wipe down with a bucket of water to kind of each windowsill that I've done, and get as much off the slate as possible, without actually taking the grout out of the grout lines too much, if that makes sense. I am kind of using nice light wipes with the sponge, not hard pushed heavy, just nice and light, and especially on the walls where the little bit of grout has gone up the side of the walls. Yeah, that's just takes it off nicely. Anyway, the whole thing about grouting and any of this is knowing what to do when maybe you pop a little bit of grout out with your sponge. You know, grab your trowel and put it back in. Experience is everything. After a little while, you'll be as good as me. I'm absolutely sure of that. Practice makes perfect. But spend a bit of time on it. You know, you've got, like I said, an hour and a half after the grout is in the joint, and then really you've got to leave it for another hour, 40 minutes at least. But this is how it comes out, nice and clean. Probably the light wasn't the best on that, but that was the day that was in it. Yeah, really, really beautiful stuff. So I hope this has helped you. I shall, of course, be making more videos. because I just really enjoy them. Have a great evening, and I will catch you later. So that was the video. I hope you found it informative. I hope that you can use the technique I've used to cut, install and grout a piece of slate relatively easy. Fairly straightforward job. I'm still COVID-19 free, thankfully. And I hope to see all of you soon on my next video. So take care of yourselves, stay safe, and I shall see you soon. Thanks.